What's up, Colts Nation? Welcome to Colts Latest. I'm your host, Scott Reiman, coming to you from sunny San Rafael, California, in the beautiful San Francisco Bay Area, home of Super Bowl 60, taking place a few miles down the road in Santa Clara at Levi's Stadium this Sunday. I was hoping I'd be able to drive down there and see the Colts in the Super Bowl, but alas, it was not meant to be. I was hoping the same thing 10 years ago when the Super Bowl was here, and if you remember, the Colts lost Andrew Luck for half the season and went 8-8, so it was not meant to be then either. Maybe 10 years from now, the Super Bowl will be here again, and the Colts will finally be there, and I can watch one close to home. That would be incredible. Before we get started today, as always, big thanks to FanArch. Couldn't do this without them. I love talking Colts. If you like watching me talk Colts, please like this video and subscribe to this channel so I can continue to talk Colts with all y'all. It's amazing. The season's coming to an end, and there's really not much happening right now in the way of like signings and rumors and stuff like that. All the coaching vacancies have been filled. So today we're going to look forward to 2026 and look at our offensive skill positions. Talk about some position battles, some potential free agent signings, and there's no better place to start than with the quarterback position, right? So all indications right now are that the Colts view Daniel Jones as their quarterback of the future. Love it or hate it. I personally love it. I'm going to get into why in a little bit. But first, how do they bring him back? Is it going to be a long-term deal, or is it going to be the franchise tag? So franchise tag is looking at its like $46 to $47 million for the year, and a projected long-term deal for Daniel Jones right now is looking at like 4 years for $180 million, or about $45 million a year. So they're going to be pretty similar. I think it's going to depend on his rehab status. If it looks like he's all systems go for week one and ready to be out there, I think they're going to sign him to a long-term deal. If he happens to have a setback or looks like maybe they're not sure how his rehab is going, then I would expect them to use the franchise tag on him. If they don't use the tag on him, then they can save the tag for somebody like Alec Pierce, who we'll get to in a little bit. But look, Daniel Jones, he's a hard worker. He's a diligent learner. This is a great system for him. The offense was firing on all cylinders before he got hurt last year. They were historically good in the first half of the season. There's no doubt the guy has talent. He wouldn't have been the 10th overall pick in the draft if he didn't. And you just got to forget about what he did in New York. I know a lot of people are hung up on those years and those bonehead plays he made in New York, but he didn't have the weapons. He didn't have the system. And sometimes guys just need a fresh start. There's kind of this new trend right now where QBs who are labeled as busts with their first or second team are finding new life with their next team. You know, Baker Mayfield did it in Tampa. Sam Darnold was a major bust in New York, and now he's in the Super Bowl. Maybe that's Daniel Jones' path. Sometimes guys just need the right fit to unlock everything, and hopefully that's what's happening with Daniel Jones, because like it or not, he's here for the future. The backup quarterback, I think, is probably going to be Riley Leonard. I think they like what they saw from him in a backup role towards the end of the season, and I think that's the direction they're going to go. He might even be the week one starter if Daniel Jones isn't ready, but that leaves us with the Anthony Richardson question. What do they do with Anthony Richardson? I personally think they're going to move on this season. Give him a fresh start somewhere else. Let him be one of those reclamation projects that we talked about, because the guy clearly has talent. It's not going to happen here. You know, there was the self-benching and the eye injury and just all these things that kind of kept him from really taking that next step here with this team. I think it's time for the Colts to just bite the bullet, get rid of him, see what they can get. Look, the 49ers did the same thing with Trey Lance. Sometimes you just have to admit it's not the right fit and get what you can and move on. And now the 49ers have Brock Purdy, who's been very successful for them. So they made the right move. I think it's time for the Colts to move on, say, look, we used high draft pick on this guy. It didn't work. Let's see what we can get. They have no first rounders the next couple of years, so if they can get some extra draft picks, maybe a third and a fifth or something, that might even be asking too much. But I think right now they got to look and see what they can get and just move on from Anthony Richardson. Well, the truth is, most teams have no shot if they lose their starting quarterback. It's a luxury to have a backup quarterback who could be a starter for multiple teams in the league. Every playoff team this year entered the playoffs with their week one starting quarterback. Nobody entered the playoffs with an injury replacement as their quarterback. Brock Purdy missed like half the season for the 49ers, but they're one of those teams who had the luxury of having a really strong backup quarterback in Mac Jones, one of those reclamation projects we talked about. Mac Jones could be a starting quarterback in the NFL for several teams next year. And so the 49ers really didn't lose that big of a step when Purdy went down and Mac Jones took over. But most teams don't have that luxury. Look what happened to Denver. Bo Nix gets knocked out of the playoffs and their offense just collapsed. So you just got to hope, I think, that your starting quarterback doesn't get injured. That's what most teams have to hope, right? So my guess is it's Daniel Jones, Riley Leonard, and then maybe a late pick or a free agent pickup to fill out the quarterback room. But like I said, just like every other team in the NFL, you just got to hope that your starting quarterback stays healthy. And if Daniel Jones does, I think he can do what he did last year for this team when he was healthy. So that brings us to running back. And look, we all love Jonathan Taylor, right? I probably love him more than most. I went to the University of Wisconsin. I've been watching this guy since he was a freshman. I absolutely screamed and ran around my house when they drafted him, as my wife can attest to. Like, I love the guy, but they need someone who can give him a little rest. Yeah, defenses were stacking the box, but he clearly wore down as the season went on. He didn't show the same burst, didn't have the same ability that he had when he ran for over 200 yards in Germany against the Falcons. They just need somebody who they feel comfortable with giving him the rest that he needs. And look, I'm not talking about a 1A, 1B situation like a lot of teams are employing now, including the two teams in the Super Bowl. You know, Seattle's got Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, even though he's hurt. New England's got Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson, but none of those guys are as good as Jonathan Taylor. Like, this is Jonathan Taylor's backfield. They're not going to bring in somebody to split carries with him evenly. It's his. But he led the league last year with 323 carries. They need to keep him fresh, not only for the second half of the season, but for the second half of his career. I want this guy around for the long term here. I don't want to see him start to fade out like an Ezekiel Elliott or Todd Gurley or some of these guys who just went from elite to gone in the span of a year. I want his career to be a Derrick Henry career. That's what we want out of Jonathan Taylor. And Derrick Henry's getting spelled a lot. He's got Keaton Mitchell giving him getting touches. He's got Gus Edwards giving touches. Like, he's never been the true bell cow that he could be. And now he's playing into his year 32 season. So maybe that's what they need to do with Jonathan Taylor. I'm fine bringing back Amir Abdullah on a 1-year deal. He was great on special teams. He was one of the more explosive guys we had back there. But are we comfortable giving him 10 to 15 touches? I'm not sure. Is DJ Giddens really ready to step up into that number 2 role? He didn't look like it last year. He got passed on the depth chart by Abdullah. Now maybe he takes a step forward. They bring back Abdullah, and those two guys can split the 10 to 15 touches that they take away from Jonathan Taylor. These questions will be answered in the coming months, I'm sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if they shake up the running back room a little bit. But at the same time, it's not really a priority. So I also wouldn't be surprised if they just brought back Abdullah on a 1-year deal and ran the running back room back the way it was this year. All right, well, that's going to bring us to wide receiver. And in my mind, the biggest question at wide receiver right now is obviously what to do with Alec Pierce. Free agent, led the team in receiving yards last season, had his first 1,000-yard season, 1,003 yards. And he's becoming more multidimensional. He can stretch the field. We always knew he could stretch the field. He's been doing that since college. But now he's really catching the ball well in traffic. He's high-pointing those double teams and just out-jumping the defenders. And he's also really improved his short route running. He also really seems to mesh well with Daniel Jones. Before Daniel Jones came around, Alec Pierce would often seem on a different page than his quarterback, miscommunications, but we didn't really see that with Daniel Jones. Several of Alec Pierce's touchdown catches were balls that had to be put in a very specific window, and he and DJ were just right on the same page. The ball was right where it needed to be, and Pierce came down with it. With Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs, and Ashton Dulin all becoming free agents after this next season, I really don't see how they can let Alec Pierce leave. The problem is he's probably going to command more money on the free agent market than the Colts want to pay for a long-term deal. Tagging him is probably going to be the best option, even though the franchise tag for wide receivers is looking at $28 million. And Alec Pierce's projected contract right now is looking at 3 or 4 years at $21 million a year. Now, I expect there to be bidding wars for him, and I think that amount is going to get a lot higher. So I think the Colts will probably negotiate with him and use the franchise tag as a last option should that bidding war escalate to a point where they don't want to pay that amount. And that's kind of what I'm expecting, because the free agent market does not inspire a lot of confidence this year, and we'll get to that. Either way, I expect Pierce to be back with the Colts, but is a wide receiver core of Pittman, Pierce, and Josh Downs enough? Or do the Colts need to go after a true alpha number one receiver? Pierce had 47 catches for 1,003 yards and 6 touchdowns last year, and Pittman had 80 catches for 784 yards and 7 touchdowns. Those numbers are fine as part of an ensemble cast, which is kind of what the Colts have right now, but neither of those are really true wide receiver one numbers. Problem is, like I said, it is not an inspiring list of free agents, which is why I think Alec Pierce could command a higher price than he's currently being projected for. The top free agents are Mike Evans, who used to be a number one. Maybe he can still be a number one. I don't think that's the kind of guy the Colts want to go after. Debo Samuel, Jawan Jennings, like these names just don't inspire confidence. George Pickens would be great, but I think Dallas is probably going to put the franchise tag on him, and he'll be a great value at $28 million. The Colts also don't really have the assets to trade for a number one receiver, and who knows who's even out there. You know, we've heard A.J. Brown's name thrown around, but the guy's such a diva and has been such a locker room cancer. Is this a guy that we really want to add? I'm not sure, and I don't even know if they have the assets to get him. If they tag out Alec Pierce, they can run it back with the same group next year, and then all those guys will be free agents, and they can kind of reassess based on what they saw this season. So while sure, it would be great for the Colts to go out and get that number one alpha receiver that they've been lacking, I don't think it's a priority this offseason. Plus, the Colts' top option in the passing game might already be on the roster, and he's not a wide receiver. That's right, we're going to get into tight end now, and Tyler Warren was everything we hoped he would be. I couldn't believe he fell to the Colts at number 14. It was great. And don't get me wrong, Colston Loveland had a very good year for the Bears, but I still think the Colts got the best tight end in the draft. Tyler Warren had 76 catches for 817 yards and 4 touchdowns, plus 1 rushing touchdown. Colston Loveland had 58 catches for 713 yards and 6 touchdowns. Their 2 seasons were 2 different trajectories. Tyler Warren started out hot, looking like he could be Rookie of the Year, and then he kind of faded with the offense over the second half of the season. Loveland started slow, and then he heated up as the Bears' offense heated up over the second half of the season. I still think Warren's intangibles and versatility make him the better option going forward at tight end. I would like to see him utilized in different ways. I mean, his versatility was one of the reasons why the Colts drafted him. I'd like to see some more wildcat, maybe some end arounds, let him throw the ball more. I mean, this is what you brought him in for. He was possibly the most exciting offensive player in college his senior year, and I really want to see them utilize some of that versatility a little bit more this year. After 10 games last season, he was on pace for 85 catches, 1,049 yards. He had 4 touchdowns in his first 7 games and then only 1 touchdown over his last 10 games. So if he can find that early season form that he had last year, I think he could be an all-pro pretty soon, too. The question is can he be the Colts' number one receiving option? Trey McBride for the Cardinals had 126 catches, good for second in the league, on 169 targets for 1,239 yards and 11 touchdowns. Now, granted, Tyler Warren has a much better supporting cast, much better running game behind him. He probably won't reach those numbers, but he has the talent to be a number one option, like a Trey McBride, like a Travis Kelce, Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates, some of these guys who were, all pro year after year, future Hall of Famers. Tyler Warren has that kind of ability. If he emerges as the number one receiver on this team, then that really is going to open up the Colts' options for next offseason. If they tag Alec Pierce, then he, Pittman, Downs, and Doolin are all going to be free agents, assuming nobody signs an extension this offseason or during next season. And if Tyler Warren emerges as that number one, they could move on from one of those guys, at least one of those guys, and use that money elsewhere, because there are going to be other positions of need if Tyler Warren is that number one option. As far as backup tight ends go, Will Mallory's going to be back. He's got 1 more year on his rookie deal. Didn't really do much last year. He had 1 catch, although it was a memorable one. If you remember against Jacksonville, Phillip Rivers threw the ball over the middle. Ball got tipped up in the air. Mallory reached behind him and grabbed it and pulled it in. It was a really nice catch. He just didn't get the kind of action this year to really see what he could do. I'd expect him to bring back either Drew Ogletree or Mo Alley Cox on a 1-year deal. Ogletree's been hurt, and his most impactful play, unfortunately, was colliding with Charvarius Ward and knocking him out with a concussion and putting his career in jeopardy. So I'm fine with them bringing back Mo Alley Cox on another, 1 year, $2 million deal, something like that. He's a great backup tight end. He's good for, very athletic, good to make a few big catches on the year. Fans love him. The Colts have had a really crowded tight end room until they brought in Tyler Warren. Every year it seems like they've got four tight ends. They kind of spread the ball around to him a little bit. So I don't know that they need four tight ends anymore if Tyler Warren's really going to be that alpha. I think a three tight end room is perfectly fine. So I think it's going to be Tyler Warren, Mo Alley Cox, and Will Mallory at tight end next year. All right, well, that is it for our offensive skill positions. Have a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit like and subscribe, and go Colts!